Hey sports fans, welcome to the final episode of the Sports Advantage of the semester. I'm Jacob Aldama.
And I'm Manager Epperson. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. Well, there were a few former Hogs that were picked up in the NFL draft. The UATV sports crew had a pretty good idea of who was going to go and who would end up, well, signing afterwards. The first man that went in the draft was a guy pretty well known on the Razorback defense. Deatrich Wise. He got picked up by the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Wise, who comes out of Carrollton, Texas, was a force to be reckoned with on the Arkansas defensive line, and he racked up some impressive numbers. And quarterbacks everywhere had to be on the lookout for the big guy. Jacob, what kind of an impact do you think Mr. Deatrich Wise will have for the Patriots?
I think for the position that he plays, I think this was probably the best move for him, because Matt Patricia is famous for I'm going to give you your playing time as a young guy. If you show me that you could play, we're going to leave you in there. We're going to get you some more playing time. We're going to keep going and going and going. You saw this with Trey Flowers a couple years ago, got drafted out of Arkansas as well. First year, didn't see very much playing time. He started seeing more and more as his rookie season went on. At the end of the year, looked like it was going pretty well. And then he was starting this year. Think about what an impact he had on the Super Bowl. Starting in the Super Bowl, 2 years out of college, making one of the crucial plays of the game, taking the Atlanta Falcons out of field goal range. So I think if Deatrich gets in there, does some maturing, gets better at his position, they can move him around on that offensive line. He's versatile. He can do it. He just got to learn the position, get motivated to get better and better. And I think he has potential to be starting about 3 years.
You got to think about this. Bill Belichick loves those defensive linemen who have the size. Yeah. Maybe they're projects there at first. You talked about Trey Flowers. Mm-hmm. He was a project. We got to see how well he played at Arkansas, but we don't know that that's going to really transition to the NFL.
Exactly.
And boy, did it transition. Mm-hmm. So he was able to coach him up with Matt Patricia, some of those other guys. I personally think that a guy like Deatrich Wise could end up fitting that mold very, very well. Was a project, was kind of a letdown in his senior season, but I think if he can get under Bill Belichick, I think maybe he can go with it.
I agree with that as well. The next Hog that made the big move to the NFL was Jeremy Sprinkle in the 5th round. At 6'6", 256 pounds, he's definitely an asset to have on the front line up there with the Washington Redskins. He's shown a time or two that he can be relied on with his hands and fight for yards after the catch. But he can also be another body to block downfield for a run. We all know how the Razorbacks feel about using their tight ends. They've already produced one Hunter Henry, stellar rookie season with the Chargers in their final season in San Diego. But he fell into some controversy. Sprinkle. Shoplifting charge would keep him from being able to participate in the team's bowl game. So, Andrew, I ask you this. Do you think that had an impact on his draft spot?
Well, he fell a little bit, but I think the Redskins would consider that a steal. In my mind, that definitely did hurt his draft stock. But from my knowledge, I know one of the tight ends on the team. I'm going to leave him unnamed. He's not on the team anymore, but he was very familiar with that situation with Hunter Henry and Jeremy Sprinkle. And he said that Jeremy Sprinkle was not going to actually be that good. He said that the defense is kind of honed in on Hunter Henry, who we talked a little bit about. He is good. I mean, those linebackers are going to go with him.
That is true.
And I think Jeremy Sprinkle was just kind of left open in the flat a lot of times simply because Hunter Henry was being kind of
wasn't as crucial of a blocking point as what you're saying.
And then the moment that Hunter Henry goes and Jeremy Sprinkle has to produce it for himself, we're not going to say he had a letdown season per se, but he was no Hunter Henry. People were saying he was going to win the Mackey Award.
I'd say it was a letdown.
I'd say it was a letdown. He was in no position to win that award.
Before the season, see, if what you're saying is correct, before the season, he had me fooled too. Before the season started, I would have said that he was a late second rounder, third round lockup for sure, 100%. But the issues come around. He doesn't play to the stellar ability that everyone thinks he should be playing to. Plus, the issues off the field. No teams want to have to deal with that. You see that time and time again with stellar players. Johnny Football was one of them. You know, he comes out, very, very talented guy, but no one wants to deal with those off-the-field issues.
Those can really hurt you, and especially if it's a really defined off-the-field issue. I know with Ryan Mallett, people were saying, well, you know, he smoked marijuana at Michigan. Is that going to come back to hurt him whenever he gets drafted? That did hurt his draft stock a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then we got to see, you know, he ended up having some off-the-field issues that weren't really related to that. But it just kind of happens in football. And so I think with Sprinkle, that definitely hurt him for sure. And then while we're talking about linemen like Deatrich Wise, right, the final Razorback to get picked up was Jeremiah Ledbetter in the 6th round. Ledbetter was the 205th pick, and he went to the Lions. So this guy was a monster, like Dietrich Wise, and some offenses in the SEC were looking out for him throughout the season. He always seemed to be in the backfield, disrupting the flow of pretty much any team's game. He played the final 2 seasons of his college career at Arkansas after spending 2 seasons playing for Hutchinson Community College. That's a pipeline there. In his junior year, he started 12 of the 13 games during the season, so you could say he immediately made his presence known in SEC play for sure. How do you think Mr. Jeremiah Ledbetter is going to fit in with the Detroit Lions?
Well, as it's pretty obvious, other than, Matt Stafford, the Lions are pretty much of a struggle team. They're kind of a toss-up in games sometimes. Either they're on it or they're not. And since Megatron, obviously that Stafford-Megatron duo really kind of carried them along. Without him, you kind of got to focus on other assets. And I think this is the time to rebuild the team, and I think this is a good move. I like Dietrich. I think that he has the potential to be something good in the NFL. But I don't think right away. He has some maturing to do. But like you said, from Hutchinson transferring to Arkansas, he had around 60 tackles in the 2 years that he's played for Arkansas. And he was in the backfield making stops, either disrupting the play somehow, almost every set of downs.
Yeah.
So he's got the potential, and that's in the SEC, arguably the toughest conference in college football. So I think that there's definite positives that come from this draft pick here, because I think it's interesting. He's a great player, but he has maturing to do, just like any other player does out of college. Maturity, I think he gets there.
Right, and he was the most consistent player on that defensive line.
Most definitely.
Last year.
Most
he
definitely.
was much more consistent than Dietrich Wise.
Everyone expected Dietrich to come out after the junior year that Dietrich had. Everybody expected Dietrich to come out and be that stellar guy that he had been time and time again the year before. Didn't really happen. People had Dietrich's number. They knew what he was doing. They knew his moves to get him off when he got off the line of scrimmage. And someone else had to step up, and that was Jeremiah Ledbetter.
Right, and he definitely did. And I think that with the Lions, they really showed that they could play without Megatron last season. They still did really, really well. Matt Stafford came into his own. That was exciting for people of Detroit. They hadn't really had good football since Barry Sanders. And so being able to see that for them was exciting. They need to focus on that defense, because in drafts past, they've taken people that ended up leaving or ended up being bust or ended up just having ego problems.
Ndamukong Suh.
And so
it's more of an island to hop off of. The Lion in Detroit. It's sort of like a stepping stone for players to get to other teams. And if they want to change that image, they're going to have to get those guys there and start producing wins. They can keep those guys there and build a championship team. That's what it's all about, right?
And I think bringing in a guy like this in the 6th round especially, you know what you're going to get with Jeremiah Ledbetter. He's got plenty of experience. He's a good football player. Do I think he's going to start? No, probably not right off the bat.
Not right off the bat.
But if he can work hard enough to get out there and maybe put that tape, make that tape look good. If he can do that, I think he could get some playing time here pretty soon.
We talked about championship teams. The New England Patriots sure have seemed to be impressed with the players coming out of Fayetteville in recent years. Trey Flowers, as we mentioned earlier, was chosen in the 4th round of the draft 2 years ago. And when the Pats traded picks with the Buccaneers, they seemed to get the better end of that deal. Some would say that this was a smart play by Old Bill, seeing as Flowers ended up making that pretty crucial play that I mentioned before that took the Falcons out of field goal range late in the 4th quarter. In the Super Bowl, that's a pretty big stage. Now they've chosen Wise in the draft and signed 2 more Razorbacks, wideout Cody Hollister and defensive back DJ Dean. Now I'm going to ask you this 2-parter here, Andrew. Do you think the signees will have the chance to make the final roster? And then also, what kind of an impact do you think this has on future recruits down in Arkansas?
Well, I think Wise is definitely going to make it. If you spend a draft pick on somebody, you usually give them at least a little bit of time to go with it. I don't think Cody Hollister is going to make that last roster, though. I don't think that he will, simply because I don't even think he's as good as his brother, who also signed with the Patriots.
Jacob.
Fred, Jacob's on the desk. Jacob is also Cody Hollister's twin brother.
Don't get me confused, though, because I don't play for the Patriots.
No, he does not. I know he wishes he could, but he does not. And so Jacob Hollister, I think, is a very solid player, and I think he will probably end up making the roster there. Cody Hollister won't. DJ Dean, I think, will make the roster. DJ Dean, I think he just never really lived up to his potential here.
DJ Dean's got that spark.
He's got a spark. He's fast. He's a good corner when he wants to be. There's some troubles here at Arkansas, but I think if he can live up to what he knows he could be and what other coaches see in him, I think if he can live up to that aspect of his career, I think he's going to be very solid there. I don't know if he's going to play, but
I agree with what you're saying, though, too. Out of the 2 brothers, I think Jacob's got a better chance of making it than Cody does. DJ Dean, I think, definitely has a chance to make it. He was plagued with some injuries throughout his tenure here at Arkansas. And there were issues off the field, on the field, kind of things with back and forth with coaches, stuff like that. But if he gets his head on straight he's a good player. He makes plays in the backfield.
Solid.
He gets beat every once in a while, but even the best guys get beat on defense.
For those first couple of years, it seemed like Arkansas fans were constantly putting that, putting the crosshairs on DJ Dean.
Right on him,
because he would get burned at least once a game for a deep ball, at least once a game. He didn't play there for a while because of some of those off-the-field issues, but once he got in there late in his career, he looked like he was a good corner. I mean, he looked like a good cornerback, and I think the Patriots, if they can get him to play like that all the time, could be a very solid situation for him.
And I think what kind of gets him, too, he's very agile and he's quick on his feet. He's able to make those transition moves back and forth, if he's not stumbling over himself. Sometimes that tends to happen.
And literally.
Yeah, figuratively and literally, because sometimes off that line of scrimmage, when you get him turning in the lane there, it's not working for him.
No, and that's going to be new level once it comes to the NFL as well. Now, along with DJ and Cody, there were also some other guys who were going to get the chance to play at the next level, for sure.
That's right. And we have several members of the graduating seniors sign free agent deals. What do you think their potential is to make those final roster spots?
I'll
let you take this one off. Yeah.
To make the final roster spots. So we'll start it off with a guy who I think is going to do really well, Keon Hatcher.
Keon Hatcher.
Keon Hatcher will do well. The Raiders let Andre Holmes walk. And so that fourth spot for the receivers, hey, Derek Carr would love to have a guy like Keon Hatcher out there catching passes. If he could have stayed away from the injury bug, I think his career would have been a little bit more illustrious here at Arkansas. So I think he's going to be solid. He's going to make the final roster spot, and I think he plays.
I think he plays.
Yeah.
I think he starts getting PT halfway through his rookie season.
I may even be before that.
Because you know how old Del Rio, he likes to throw in those wide receivers around the field, even the younger guys.
Derek likes giving everybody a chance.
He likes tossing it up to anybody that can make plays. And Keon Hatcher is one of those guys that can make plays. You saw that definitely at Arkansas.
Now, another guy who made plays at Arkansas, but I don't think is going to make any plays in the NFL, is a man named Drew Morgan. He's a receiver, signed with the Miami Dolphins. He's got an attitude problem, first of all. And those NFL defensive players are looking to silence people like that right off the bat. So I think that's going to hurt him. And he's undersized. And
anybody who thinks they're too full of themselves, yeah, those star defensive backs are looking to put you back down in the ground. For sure.
It'll be a rude awakening for Mr. Drew Morgan.
It'll be interesting to see for Drew as well, because there are some wide receivers that have come into the league that are built like him. You have the Wes Welkers, the Danny Amendolas, the Chris Hogans, all played for the Patriots. Those are the guys. That's the kind of team where those kind of smaller guys tend to be used the right way.
Are you saying that Ryan Tannehill's system is not going to be as good as Tom Brady and the Patriots?
I just don't.
You don't think Drew would have a worse time in Miami?
I don't know.
And he's in Miami, so you know what he's going to be doing down there, partying it up, not playing football.
So then we also have Dan Skipper, who made the move to Dallas.
Yep.
Signed with the old Dallas Cowboys. Arguably one of the best offensive lines in the league last year. They obviously didn't win that playoff game that they were so hoping to win, but like I said, if you look at statistically, best offensive line in the league.
Right.
Do you think he has a chance to take that spot over?
Absolutely not. That's a laughable question. I would bet my broadcasting career that he will not. He will play special teams. That's why they brought him in, to play special teams. But when it comes to being on the offensive line with some of those guys down there in Dallas, right? I mean, like you said, this is considered the best offensive line in all of football. Possibly one of the best in history, considering how good they are, just individually put together.
Oh yeah,
that's a fantastic offensive line. As an understatement, 0% chance he ever makes a play.
I agree with you there. Yeah. I think we talked about this too on draft day. I think anybody, if he was to get drafted, my stipulation was that he wasn't going to get drafted just because people look at him because of his size. You could put him on in a field goal block, and he can get up there and make things happen. But he's too slow. He's not agile. He's not quick on his feet. He gets beat too often. You saw it time and time again down in Fayetteville. He gets beat, leads to sacks.
Yep.
He gets beat, it leads to tackles for a loss, guaranteed. Always. Even if he's double teamed, there's no chance. There's no chance. And I don't think he's got what it takes to last in the league.
In about 30 and 40 years, we can ask Austin and Brandon Allen if they know Dan Skipper, and by that point they'll have forgotten who he is because they got hit so many times.
Exactly.
Because of him.
Taken to the ground.
Yep.
Good insight right there. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you'll get to see UATV's version of the Not Top 10.
Plus, well, hey, later on we're going to play a new game. I'm excited about this one. We're going to talk about the big draft picks across the country as well, so you better stay tuned. TSA is going to be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. Again, it's me and Andrew. Andrew and I. Proper English we're going to use here, I guess.
We use good grammar here.
We're going to change it up this week. Instead of our top 10, what do you think?
That is right. I think we got something even better in store. Instead of doing a top 10, where we just discuss the talent, we're going to take a look at the top 10 NFL draft busts of all time. Let's start it off with 10. How about that? This is a guy Razorback fans know pretty well. Trent Richardson, Alabama running back in their prime, fantastic. They won 2 national championships under him.
2 national championships, drafted by Cleveland, third round, or third overall.
Yeah, he was a number 3 pick.
People were looking at him to make a difference over there in Cleveland. Did it happen?
Well, he didn't spend a full season there, so I guess we won't know, will we?
Then we go to number 9. Number 9 is Johnny Football. Johnny Manziel, we mentioned him earlier. Very promising career at Texas A&M in college. Put a whooping on Alabama. No one thought it would happen. Gets to the NFL.
I'm in love with the Coco.
It's some issues there. Some issues off the field. Can't keep it together. Can't keep your head on straight. No team wants to deal with those off-the-field issues, man.
The Browns sure didn't, but they got plenty of issues regardless of him. How about number 8 now? I know Derek Carr. You know, we talked about him just a second ago, quarterback of the Oakland Raiders. If we move on to number 8 here, there's another Carr. He didn't really seem to be as good. David Carr, his older brother. That's some awkward family meals being talked about
what do you
these
think
days.
Thanksgiving was like at that family?
I don't know. He was a number 1 overall pick. I do know that in 2002 by the Texans.
Houston gave everything up to get this pick.
And Andre Johnson gave up his career as a result of this pick.
Could have
Ugly.
been a top wide receiver in NFL history.
He would have been up there, that's for sure. Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, I think would have been looking at him and been in the same type of category. Instead, he's looked at as the guy who didn't win a ring or anything.
Then number 7, we've got another Cleveland Browns quarterback, Tim Couch. He was first overall picked by the Cleveland Browns in the '99 draft. He had 5 seasons in the NFL with Cleveland. Never made much of his career.
It's crazy. Kentucky actually had a player who didn't just play basketball and people consider him good. He was a pretty dang good football player back then. But, yeah, very, very ugly, not a very good football player. I think that would have to be a way to sum that up. How about number 6, though? Robert Griffin III. We'll see him here in just a moment. As this is going here. RG3 colloquially known.
Stellar down in Baylor. Very good career.
Heisman winner.
Heisman winner, would run all over you.
Yep, but he kind of ran all over that leg that ended up getting hurt after that rookie season.
He's not on this list because he had a bad career. He's on this list because he got plagued with injuries.
And it stinks when that happens.
Same issue in college. Not going to work out for him. Then we move on to number 5.
USC Trojan. How about this?
Yes, sir.
And former Oakland Raider.
Heisman Trophy winner Matt Leinart.
Watch him get rocked
Drafted
right
in the first round 6th overall by the Cardinals. 6 seasons total in the NFL. 5 with the Cardinals, 1 with the Raiders.
He was pretty good when he had to stay in the pocket.
Never had a winning record.
If he could stay in the pocket, wait for his receivers to get open, he could make a play. But the moment that line broke down, and that line would break down a lot with the Cardinals and Raiders. Oh, man. If he got out of the pocket and had to make a play, he was not going to be able to do it. Number 4, Brady Quinn.
Another Cleveland Browns quarterback.
Whoa. Oh, no. 22nd overall by the Browns
this time. Could this be a
curse
curse for the Browns?
The Browns are cursed?
Oh, my goodness.
Cleveland's cursed?
Again, a stellar college career at Notre Dame. Never really fit in anywhere. Played for 6 teams in 7 years. Gave up his career to do what?
Do what we do. He's a broadcaster now.
Yes.
Which is not a bad thing.
Number 3, we have the boss himself, Brian Bosworth, formerly known for his Oklahoma Sooner glory days.
That's for sure. He was good back then.
2-time All-American, but what happened?
He's known for being run over by a guy we now know as probably the most athletic player in NFL history, Bo Jackson.
Yeah, not much you could do. You just saw the highlight right there. I mean, you just run right over him.
There's nothing you could do. And that pretty much ruined his career because he was known as one of the most tenacious players until that point. How about number 2? I hate talking about this one.
Raider.
Yeah, Jamarcus Russell. Oh, boy.
He was pretty athletic when he came to camp, right?
He was not ever really athletic from the moment that they drafted him. They knew he was going to be a bust.
And the money they blew.
6 years.
$61 million. 32 of which they had to give him.
Yeah, and now he's been saying within the past few seasons he wants to make a comeback, everything else. Well, when you're an almost 300-pound quarterback, unless you are, what's that guy? He used to play for Kentucky.
Now he plays in like the arena football league, right?
Who's like that big guy. Unless you're him, you're not going to be able to pull that off. So Jamarcus Russell could not pull that off.
Then we move on to number 1, the cream of the crop. Who else could we talk about but Ryan Leaf? Drafted 2nd overall behind, I mean, you might know this guy, Peyton Manning.
I know that guy.
Burglary charges, drug charges in 2009, and then actually went to jail in 2014. You could say a career was a wee bit of a bust. A wee bit of a bust, I tell you.
By wee bit, I think extreme bust. Very, very bad. Yelling
Very,
at
very bad.
reporters,
Yes,
yelling
yes,
at
yes.
teammates, just not good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I guess that was a good not top 10, I guess I would say, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty good not top 10, not a good top 10.
When we come back, we're going to play a little game.
Hey, I can't wait to play it. Do not leave. We'll see you after the break.
Go back to TSA. We always have a lot of fun on here. It's time for us to play a little game.
The game is called Deal, Big Deal, or No Deal. How about that? The show is focused on the NFL draft so far, but we've only discussed the former Razorbacks at this point.
And the NFL draft busts. But now if we move on, it was the Michigan Wolverines who made the biggest splash in this year's NFL draft. After just 3 years under head coach Jim Harbaugh, the Wolverines are now, in a sense, on the map. 11 players drafted this year, the most out of any other college in the NCAA. Andrew, big deal or no deal?
Well, wham, bam, somebody slam. They look at a thing like that and they say, wow, we got more people than Alabama drafted. That should be a big deal. This is nothing.
One
This
up
is
to
not-
Alabama. Alabama had 10, Michigan had 11.
Yeah, but which one played the national championship game? And which one do people expect to win the national championship year in and year out?
Wait.
Happens to be the SEC
Yeah,
team.
it happens to be the SEC team. You're right
Yeah,
there.
and so having Jim Harbaugh is a big deal for him, and I think that is the big deal. Why they're able to get these recruits.
In a
It's
couple
not from
more
this.
years, I think
Nope.
they're going to be competing for the national championship.
I think so as well, but it's not
Possibly
because they're
next
getting
year.
more draft picks. I think it's because of Jim
you're
Harbaugh.
right there. It's because everyone's so attracted to Jim Harbaugh's kind of style of play.
And his style in general is
Yeah,
khakis.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
pretty exciting. If I was a recruit, I'd like that. But even though the Crimson Tide came in second with the most drafted players at 10 total, Nick Saban's squad had the most players drafted in the first round with 4 total. So let me ask you this.
Alabama goes up on Michigan there.
Yeah, so I guess they win in the end, right? Let's talk about the impact this has on future recruits. Big deal or no deal?
I don't know if it's the 4 that are drafted in the first round that'll kind of entice recruits to go to Alabama. I think it's the franchise that Nick Saban has built in Tuscaloosa. Before Nick Saban, what were the Alabama Crimson Tide? A joke.
Oh, yeah.
A joke. Nick Saban comes along. Arguably, he's up there with the likes of Bear Bryant.
He is the greatest coach to ever coach the game
Greatest
of
coach
football.
to ever coach the game of football, as you saw with the contract that they just had him sign today.
Yep.
Or yesterday. Money
Yep.
is what he's bringing in.
SEC fans were like, oh,
That's it.
he's back.
That's it. And as long as he's there, he's going to bring in recruits every year, and he is going to keep giving those totals in the NFL draft every year.
Yep.
4 in the first round. Heck, he might do 5 or 6 in the first round next year. There are some good players that are still there.
Well, it's no deal because Alabama just does this. This is Alabama. You know, when you say there's a lot of players from Alabama drafted in the first round, it's almost like, okay, tell me something I don't know. The sky is blue, grass is green. I mean, this is just something that we all know.
The football is what shape?
Football, it's brown and it's got laces on it. Like, tell me something I don't know. Like, this is something we all know. So this is no deal. I mean, this is what you expect year in and year out. It's like when people say Alabama lost the national championship. Big deal, little deal. No, or big deal or no deal. No deal. They're going to be back next year.
They're going to be back next year.
Yeah,
They
same
made
thing.
it to the national championship. I don't really know how you can argue with that.
Yeah.
There was a time until the last couple of years where teams did not consider running backs to be worth a top 10 pick, or even a first-round pick for that matter. Last year we saw Zeke get drafted by the Cowboys at the number 4 spot, and saw how that turned out for the Cowboys. Most rushing yards, best rushing backfield for the Cowboys. This year's draft, Leonard Fournette also went in what pick? 4 again. Will he have an impact on this league? Is this a big deal? No deal.
This is no deal. The narrative that running backs don't get drafted in the first round, I don't per se agree with that because as a Raiders fan, I watched the Raiders draft Darren McFadden 4th overall. We've seen Reggie Bush be drafted 2nd overall. Mm-hmm. We see people go in the first round all the time.
This year it was running back heavy though.
Yeah, it was. There's a lot of running backs that were solid in this draft as well.
We're not saying running backs never go first round, but
No.
running back heavy.
there was just some other needs that needed to be addressed. And I think he's going to fit in well with the Jaguars. Do I think he's going to do as well as Ezekiel Elliott? Absolutely not, because he does not have that offensive line that we talked about. Maybe they can send Dan Skipper over after he learns a couple tricks.
Yeah, maybe learn a trick or two.
Yeah, he's going to learn a couple tricks from some of those guys, and then he's going to go to the Jags and play well.
So no deal?
No deal.
No deal. I agree with that too. No deal, because he's a great back. He fits into that system very well. He's an old school back, just as plow you over. But don't think it'll work out that well for him there. I think he'll put up some impressive stats. He'll definitely see that playing time right away. Blake Bortles definitely needs another asset there on the old Jags offense. But no deal. I would have taken, personally, in my opinion, Christian McCaffrey over Leonard Fournette, solely because he is more versatile. You can use him anywhere on the field. He can catch the ball, and he's really quick and can get around you and with his agility moves. But he's also that back who's not afraid to run it up the middle. So I think he's more versatile, and I like those guys that I can actually use in multiple different plays, not just the hard-nosed run backs.
And I know another guy who can do that. How about former Texas Longhorn Deontay Foreman? He went day 2 to the Houston Texans. How about that?
Texans.
And with the 89th pick of the draft, Texas has been a little bit of a disappointment as of late in the Big 12, but Foreman definitely was not. He was pretty much the entire Texas offense, in fact. He had over 2,000 rushing yards this past season. Jacob, is this a big deal or is this no deal?
I think big deal. I think, like you mentioned, the Texas Longhorns weren't much of a sight to see, haven't been much of a sight to see since the Colt McCoy days. It's been losing seasons, just overall fan disappointment. But you have Deontay Foreman. He's a good back to have. I think he kind of reminds me of he's a smaller version of Marshawn Lynch. I like Marshawn Lynch. He's fast, but he's hard-nosed and will plow you over and run down your throat. And I like that kind of physical play, and I like to see that from him. But like I said, he's no Marshawn Lynch. He's not as big, obviously, but I think he could have a pretty good impact down in Houston.
You know, I think he could play well. I hope the best for him. He reminds me a little bit of Darren McFadden. Now, this is the thing, when it boils down to this, him going to the Texans, that's a home state team. That's exciting for him. Darren McFadden gets to the NFL, and his running style gets him hurt a lot.
That is true.
And that's what happened to him. Now, I'm not going to say that this is going to happen. I can't predict injuries. I'm no, I have no crystal ball here on the desk or anything. But I think if he can stay healthy, if Darren McFadden were to stay healthy, I think he would have been great too.
Oh, I think he
if
would.
Deontay Foreman
be in
stays
that
healthy, I think he could be great.
That top discussion, yes, for sure. But best backs in the league, he had the potential coming out of it. He just got hurt.
And he was on a really bad team.
And
Deontay Foreman's on a pretty bad team right now, too.
Raiders weren't as good as they are now. back when they selected him in the draft.
Yeah.
And now we talk about the final pick in the draft. Last pick, last day. The spot has a nickname, Mr. Irrelevant, a player that Arkansas fans are quite familiar with. Former Ole Miss quarterback Chad Kelly, drafted 253rd overall to the Broncos. Big deal or no deal?
This is coming from a Broncos franchise that's used to having a quarterback in there like Peyton Manning. I don't think that their personalities are quite the same. I think it's a big deal that they drafted him, and I think he's a very fantastic football player, first of all. Let me say that. We watched him scorch Arkansas, even though they lost to Arkansas. He's a very good football player. He can do it all. He can get out of the pocket and make plays. He can make plays with his legs, which is a big-time element of a quarterback's skill set that can really make him an asset to your team. And he's got leadership qualities. He's a little bit immature, but I think he could have a solid career. He won't start over Simeon game 1. Or, who's that? Paxton Lynch.
Paxton Lynch.
He won't start over Paxton Lynch. I think he's who's going to get the starting nod, but I think inevitably he'll have a great career in the end.
I think big deal as well. I think he'll have a good career. He's built like a quarterback. He's, 6'2", 215 pounds. He's, like you said, he's got the wheels. He's got the arm to get things done. He's just got to get that maturity level up. He's got to be able to get that mindset right, because when he gets flustered in the game, you saw it time and time again in the SEC, he gets flustered, he's throwing picks. He's throwing incomplete passes. I've seen him throw passes into the stands. Like look
at this lucky play right here. I mean, he legitimately is getting hit. He just throws it up and somebody catches it. That's not going to happen in the NFL.
But see, when he's got that time in the pocket, just like you saw there, he's able to throw those dimes on an arrow, just like couldn't get any more straight.
That's what happens when Jim Kelly's your uncle, right?
He's definitely got that potential for sure.
For sure. Anyway, that was a great roundtable, my friend. That's how we're going to end it. This is the last TSA of the semester. I am Andrew Epperson.
And I'm Jacob Aldama. This will be my last TSA here at the University of Arkansas. I've loved every second of it. I want to say thanks to the TSA crew and Nick Bravo behind the camera and everybody in the control room. It's been fun here at UATV. One heck of a ride. Have a good night and a great summer.